baby.
We in here, yeah, we in here. 'Cause we been
Y'all better get comfortable with saying black.
We in here, yeah, we in here.
Black versus the Board of Education.
'Cause we came here, rid of us now. We in here, yeah, we in here. 'Cause we came here, rid of us now. And you know that we don't ever go to because we've been here.
That's why we are indeed a whole mood.
That's it.
Happy MLK Day to you. It is January 20th, and we are Black versus the Board of Education. My name is Miss Laureen, and I happen to be the captain of the ship. And as usual, I like to let you know who's in the building. I only have two co-hosts today so far. I'm going to let this one catch his breath, so we'll go ahead and start with Melissa. Where's my girl, Melissa?
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa.
We don't hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you
My
now.
name is Melissa, and I am a freshman at UC Berkeley, and I'm excited about today's conversation.
Well, I always like to party with you because, we be on the same vibe, Melissa.
Always.
I mean. Let's go over here. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Introduce yourself.
My name is Isaiah. I am exhausted right now. Sweaty, breath, but I'm ready to get things rolling.
Okay, but you're going to have to come up close to this microphone, and we're going to get Fox in here. I saw Fox just walked in, and hopefully he'll come in and sit by Brewer when he's ready. But we are talking about billboards and BS. There's a lot going on around the world, and Elk Grove is no exception. We had some incident with a construction sign that displayed the N-word, and not the one with the A, the one with the hard ER. And so we're going to be talking to our special guests who are both here, one in studio, one on virtually. So let's go ahead and pull up Mayor Bobbie Singh-Allen, and she can introduce herself, although I just said her name. She can introduce herself, and we can get started with the discussion. Welcome to Black versus the Board of Education.
Thank you, and thank you for hosting us this late afternoon. Pleasure to be with you all. Bobbie Singh-Allen, Mayor of Elk Grove.
Well, I always love when we get a chance to really have a conversation, and, not everybody can say I have the mayor's personal cell phone and I can text her when I need to talk to her. So welcome, and thank you for answering the call. Let's go in studio. Councilman is in the building. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Laureen. And good afternoon, everybody. Happy MLK Day. Rod Brewer, City Council member for the City of Elk Grove. Serving the eastern and southern portions of Elk Grove, but definitely glad to be here today and been longtime friends of Laureen and with BYLP. So I'm very happy to be here today to have this conversation.
Great. So, Mayor Bobbie Singh-Allen, can you talk to us about how were you notified that something was going on or that there was some sort of incident involving the construction sign?
So I was alerted from my planning commissioner, Sandra Poole, who had seen some commentary on Nextdoor. And by the time, when I found out and the city found out, were within minutes apart. Someone had seen the sign, had taken a picture of it, and there was a discussion on it, and people weren't sure whether it was a hoax or whether it was real. And so that's when I connected with our public works. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I keep seeing some signaling and I wasn't sure.
Yeah, because I can hear them on the microphone too. They were whispering and their voices were coming through. So I was trying to get their attention, but I got yours. But go ahead.
So then I talked to my city manager and our public works director, who confirmed that, one, it was not a hoax, but secondly, that it had been removed just as soon as they were alerted. But I think one of the most important things to remember, this was not a city contractor. It was not on city property, other than, it incurred in the city of Elk Grove, but the Sacramento Sewer District, which is a separate government agency, it was their contractor who had the sign. It's their sign. And they are working on the Harvest Water Project right there. For those of you who live in Elk Grove.
So it's somebody that's from outside of the city that is responsible for
Correct.
that particular construction sign.
Right.
Okay.
A different government agency and a different contractor who works with the Sacramento Sewer District. So they're not, we, it's in our city, but we don't, we don't work directly with them.
Okay.
If that makes
got it.
sense.
It makes perfect sense. Brewer, how were you notified that something was on display in the city of Elk Grove?
I was notified by text from the mayor.
Oh.
And also from what I saw on social media.
Oh, okay.
That's how I found out,
Mhm.
because I'm over on the east side, and I was in the middle of several activities during the day. And when I got home, I popped over my phone, saw the text from the mayor
Mhm.
on that what she received, and then saw the actual sign and the posting from the individual that saw the posting,
Mhm.
who went basically to Walgreens for a run.
Mhm.
Saw the information, posted it online. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's like you think in 2025, you don't expect to hear or see
It's
anything
disgusting.
like that on
Yeah.
any sort of public billboards.
Mhm.
But come to find out, as looking at it, talking to different people, how did someone get into that sign?
Right. That was
Well,
going to
so
be
we
my
can
question.
shed some light on that one.
And that is interesting, because we were speculating and spitballing. How does anyone get a hold of that sign?
Yeah.
How does anyone get in there and type in those words and be on their merry way? Come to find out, that sign, not only you have a lock, but you don't have a padlock. You don't have any chain to get into it, but you have a lock. So it's easy to jimmy that lock, open it up, and the password is on the billboard
Oh,
sign
shoot.
itself. So you can go in there and see that. Oh, that's how you get in. You type it in, and then you go in and start and do whatever you want to do. You could do any sort of messaging that you want, as long as it fits those characters to fit the billboard sign itself. This person that did it,
Yeah.
And it's not funny, but
went
my
way out of
God.
their way to say, you know what? Well, I only have a couple of seconds. So if they probably typed in what they typed in, and then closed up the box and ran.
Yeah,
So-
unfortunately, it's a universal password that comes with these that the contractor didn't change. It was actually, I think, still listed on the box.
Oh my God.
It's
like, we're
unfortunate
not-
that it wasn't a happy message or positive message, but had to be, of course, a racist slur.
Oh,
I
It's like
just
you
can't
can
help
type
but
in-
think of, what about the children who might have seen this? Like, it's just horrific.
You can type in any message you want. You can say, have a nice day, Merry Christmas, Trump's a bum. You could do any of that stuff.
right.
But no, you did the hard ER,
Yeah.
closed up the box, and went on about your business. And there's so many people that probably had seen it that didn't believe what they saw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the sign is placed in a weird angle to where even our real-time information center cams,
Mm-hmm.
they have eyes on everything in the town, but there's a serious blind spot that was missed right there.
Mm.
So whoever did what they did,
Mm-hmm.
they were lucky, because that, as you know, that was just straight BS.
Okay, so I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So, because I watch Law and Order, and I think that I'm a detective most times. Did anybody dust for fingerprints? Like how?
That's a good question. I don't know that they dusted. Everybody was interested in the video footage.
Uh-huh.
That's funny though. The dusting. Yeah.
I mean,
we did the surveillance, the video footage. Unfortunately, it did not yield anything based on sort of the angles, as Councilmember Brewer described.
Yeah.
But dusting of the prints, I mean, they're police. I'm sure perhaps I can find out. I don't know for certain. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to speculate, but it's disgusting. It happens statewide, but we still have to be outraged because it's still happening. It's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And as a mayor of one of the most diverse cities, not only in the region, but in California, it's unacceptable. This is unacceptable. And we pride ourselves, like I said, with, being a city that's welcoming to all, and we're inclusive. And then you see stuff like this continue to happen, not just in Elk Grove, but elsewhere. Like, it just, It's unacceptable. So, I don't, unfortunately, there's still darkness out there. They're ignorant people. They're racist. There's all kinds, unfortunately. But we still have to come together as a community and be outraged and see how we can fix things and be proactive. What I will offer up to the listeners and viewers is that in Elk Grove, our construction contracts includes language for being tamper-proof, so that, you don't see nonsense like this. So the contractors that we work with has language that it shall be locked, password protected, and additionally, it cannot be moved or adjusted or modified by any third parties. So, and we encourage everybody, obviously, to have similar language. I don't know that language was there with the other government agency and their contractor, but that is language that we in the city have for our contractors, things that we can control. Now, that's not to say it's foolproof. Unfortunately, people still break in and are very clever.
And I know you're at short for time, but I have a quick, just I don't know if it's a question, but maybe it is. It probably is. So when you have situations like this, what is normally the response that you expect the city to have to address it? Sure. Because, as a partner with the Stop the Hate Coalition here in California, they are the ones who sent me a message like, how are you responding? Sure. And I'll get to my response later. But, when you see things like this, what is the responsibility of those who are in elected positions to address it and get to the bottom of it quickly so that people understand that this is something that's important to you also as leaders here in this city?
So in this case, and generally in all cases, I don't wait for the city to respond. I have a duty and responsibility. I can respond in real time. And so once I, gathered the information that at least I had, I put out my statement. Shortly thereafter, the city did as well. They don't necessarily, they'll put in the, things of like our policies and being a welcoming city, no place for hate and all of those things, and do it with the facts. You gather the facts. And you don't want to editorialize too much, but you can show proper outrage. You want to have the information that's fact-based. So that requires an investigation, getting information from not only the police department, but in this case, the other government agency, which I didn't even talk to them until late the next day, which I think was, in my opinion, slow. It should have been a lot quicker. So, but as a city leader, I of course, whatever information I had, I shared in real time that I could. And then the city, of course, followed suit with what they can share and what information they have. And then, of course, we did share our Elk Grove Police Department's phone number because we were looking for tips. Anybody who saw anything. I, in fact, even reached out to the woman on Nextdoor, and I don't comment on Nextdoor, so I'll just be clear. Sometimes I'll be alerted to things and I'll go and read, but it's just, I stay away from that. So I went on the thread and there was one person who described that they thought they had seen somebody lurking there and doing something. So I reached out to her privately, and she was unable to describe the person with any detail. So I gave her, of course, the information. But the sad thing is that we didn't get a single tip, at least as of the last time I talked to our chief of police and the city manager. Not a single tip. And we're a week in. I don't know if we've received anything in the last 24 hours, but it could have been the hour, the time of day, in how, but I imagine if this woman did in fact see somebody or anybody, it might have been hard to decipher what might be happening. Because there are used to crews out there, and if you're not overtly looking like you're up to no good, although I don't know what that means, they may have just sort of blended in. I don't know, but I will say that as soon as we were alerted, we were able to make contact and get everything removed, but it was still up, and it's hard to guess how long it might have been up. And if I'm willing to guess, it was late overnight, early in the early mornings, because we didn't get a lot of people that would have seen it. And it's a very busy intersection, very busy. Laguna Boulevard and Franklin are very busy.
Mm. And I'm going to throw it to my co-host because they may have questions. Fox said he had a question, so I'll start with him, and then I'll go to Melissa.
Yeah.
Move the
Anybody have a
microphone.
question for me specific? Because I do have to go to another event. Otherwise, you're in great hands with my colleague.
Okay. Well, one of you guys, for those of us that don't know, what is next door?
Oh, next door is so it's a what would you call it, Rod? It's a community online forum. I think they're statewide, aren't they?
Yeah.
Where you
next door is a nationwide community,
like an app. It's a app. It's a
It's a
social media
neighborhood
app,
app.
that
Yeah,
connects neighbors in certain neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So you're alerting, lost dogs, things happening, hot topic discussions. It's just where the community gathers. I would consider it a social media platform because it is, but it's typically just community talking about community issues, things that are going on, missing people, just like literally all topics. And that's where it was being described. From the public standpoint, from what I've gathered, that's where the discussion started.
Okay, thank you.
Melissa, do you have any questions specifically for the mayor? If not, we're going to let her log off.
No.
Thank you for doing this. And for me, like I said, as a mayor, it's important for me to participate in these opportunities because it's a reminder that we are a beautiful city that is welcoming to all, and we will not tolerate this kind of racism. And we will always come together as a community and my colleagues, and we will speak up and speak out very loudly and denounce these kinds of hate, this kind of hate. So it's unacceptable. It's unfortunate that it was on the heels of a beautiful day like today. I'm celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. King. But you have a commitment that this mayor and my council, we are committed to doing the work 365 days a year. I want to thank you, Lorene, for the advocacy and the work that you continue to do in the community.
Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll let you go and get dressed for your presentation. But we're going to put Rod on the hot seat because he's still in here.
All right, you're in good hands. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, take care. Isaiah, you had a question before I start monologuing?
Sure. So what are since after this whole thing, being sorry, let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that. So what are the next steps to make sure something like this doesn't happen again? What are the steps you can take to make sure that, things are more secure in the future for these kinds of?
In this situation, because we're talking about Sacramento area sewer district, or SAC sewer district. They're in the middle of doing their water harvest project. That water harvest project is going on predominantly along Franklin Boulevard. And as we know, their offices are on Franklin Boulevard, just in between Sacramento and Elk Grove, or South Sacramento and Elk Grove. As they continue on that project, they need to buckle down and just work closely on their contracts. They need to work on their signage.
Move the password or change it. Like, what the hell? That seems simple.
There's a lot of stuff that to do.
Please do.
We have to change our passwords every 90 days. Otherwise, we're at risk of getting hacked.
Yeah.
This is an old digital sign that has been around since probably the 1990s, if not before. They need to clean up their act, and they need to take that password off.
Why would the password be on there? I'm just so confused.
You know what? I don't know why. It's not for us to even spitball.
Yeah.
But anyone who's doing work anywhere involving those signs, if they're responsible for posting up signage or verbiage, they need to have that password in their pocket, in their phone, whatever they're supposed to have it, but they don't need to have it on there because it's already easy enough to break into those boxes already. What also needs to be done is that they need to have padlock boxes on those boxes that make it hard to break open. If you're going to get in there, you better get one of them. You better get something that can break that lock, because this was too easy.
Yeah.
This was too easy. And there needs to be safeguards on that in the future. And our city manager, Jason Bierman, I've had conversations with him on this nonstop since Sunday morning, last Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And we can definitely assure the city of Elk Grove, we don't play that type of game. We're a lot more, we pay more close attention to the details. We make sure that if you're going to use those signage things, that you're basically, you have your script, you know how to use that script, but more importantly, no one should be able to get into that box. If they get into that box, that means they're tampering with it, and we'll know that's been tampered with.
Yeah.
And more importantly, definitely encourage people to really be on the lookout throughout town. It's just constant vigilance. We have to be on the ball of this. And you can give me a call, 916-208-8841. You can call me, you can text me. But if you see any craziness like that, let me know so we can get people out there on the scene to just clamp down on that real fast, because we saw this happen. And on the same time last weekend, swastikas were being painted at Natomas High School and Discovery High School. And I don't know how that investigation's going, but we do have an idea how this is going, and we can't let it be shuffled under the rug. We need to find out who the heck did this, because this is intolerable. This is 2025, 96th anniversary of Dr. King's birthday, and this is something. It's like you would think that we would be past all this, but we're not.
Who would think that? Because there's two things I want to say. One, what are any type of accountability measures that we can levy against someone like the Sac Sewer Water District if their sign is tampered with? Like if they didn't do enough to safeguard that, is there any type of accountability measures that the city of Elk Grove has in place that we can levy against people when these types of things?
Not that I know of, other than.
So I'm gonna suggest the city council put something like that on the books.
Because we do have in the books, we do have an ordinance on how we engage with our different agencies on work they do within the city. But those agencies, they need to be responsible,
right? And
we need to hold them. We need to hold them into account.
But we don't have any specific measures that we can.
Not that I know of.
Okay, so I'm gonna encourage the city to put some of those, because again, you just told everybody how easy it is to hack these signs.
It's too easy.
And the password is there, so they don't really have to go anywhere to look for it. But the other part of that is you're asking people, especially people in our community, there's like a no snitching policy, and you just tell people to call you if they see stuff, and that's probably not going to happen. So what types of other things can the city do to make sure they take the necessary precautions to protect themselves from things like this?
For the city, like I said earlier, it's like we have these sort of signs at our corporate yard, and you're not going to see a password on there. You're not going to see a ease of opening up that lock.
Yeah, but for the people that do have these passwords and these locks up there, like what types of things can the city do to protect itself from outside agencies who have these things in our city that our people can see? Is basically what I think I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, no, with something like that, I mean, it's basically being more proactive and saying, hey, you can use ours, you can use yours. But if you use yours, you need to follow the script.
Right.
Because this is part of the contract and we have it in our contract. I'm surprised you don't have it in yours, but you need to start thinking about stuff like that, because you don't think about anyone doing pranks or slurs or anything like that. You just don't. It's just human nature.
Yeah.
But
some people are bored.
Some people are bored. Some people want attention. Some people just don't have stuff to do. And it's like, you know what? I just want to raise a little ruckus.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think that, there may be other communities who are more upset about this than someone like me. Because if people really wanted to smoke, they wouldn't run after they wrote something like this. They would stand there and take what comes with that. But people who do this type of thing and they kind of throw the rock and hide their hands, you waste energy on that, because it's like you're, a cat chasing his tail, right? Nobody got time for that. But on the heels of Dr. King, we've fictionalized his legacy a lot. And everybody has kind of turned it into we're just one big happy family. Let's deal with what's really going on, here in the city of Elk Grove. There has been numerous, type of incidents that have gotten us to this point. I'm thinking particularly the situation that happened with Dream Girls a number of years ago. And then I'm thinking about the school district here that has a propensity to over suspend and expel Black children. And so when people tell me, this never happens, we're not like this. No, but we are like this. And that's why we stay so busy here in the city, making sure that our children are not judged by the color of their skin, but are by the content of their character. But what happens when your ideal of who they are as people is colored by your own bias? You know what I mean? And so I actually like Elk Grove. I've been here for a while. But there are some things that are happening here that we have to be honest about. Fox, you had an idea of what Elk Grove was like. And you tell me often how Elk Grove is, coming from one of the neighboring cities. Well, maybe not neighboring, but somewhere around here. What would you want to express to the councilman here about your perceptions of Elk Grove and what you've seen and how you've seen things go as a member of the community? Yeah, that's a loaded question, right?
Loaded question, but I'll be honest though.
Okay.
Coming to Elk Grove, man, I thought I hit the jackpot. But I did. It's a nice neighborhood. The streets are nice and all that. And I'm gonna say this in an honest way, but I'm gonna also say that I don't mean the whole community, but I do see things. It can deteriorate if somebody doesn't get on it. So when I hear you talking to me, saying next to me, you can do it my way or you can do it your way, but we gotta do it. If somebody doesn't get on it, then I can see Elk Grove deteriorating. But what I be seeing in Elk Grove, it's like a baby oak park.
A baby oak park. Okay, explain that to us. What does that mean?
It's a softer side. I grew up in Oak Park.
Yeah.
And growing up in Oak Park, you think Rancho Cordova is nice and Laguna is nice and Valley High is nice and Rancho Cordova, Elk Grove, you don't get arrested. You go out there. That's what you hear out there in that community growing up. And I'm an 80s baby. I don't know what they're saying now. I'm saying in my time. I'm from the Oak Park before it was gentrified.
Yeah.
Right. So now I be out here. I see these little kids out here sagging their pants, spray painting stuff, and they smoking these vape pens, and it's like they don't know how good they got it.
Oh.
They don't know how good they got it. And we do what we can, we counsel them, we mentor to them, but we talking to them about stuff they don't know about.
Okay.
They faking like they know. But kids in other communities, they know because they really live that.
Yeah.
But I see kids out here acting like they come from struggle. Your parents came from struggle, but you live in a house with a 3-car garage with 2 cars in the garage. And that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
That's a beautiful thing. So why you got all these vape pens and these little pistols in your pocket and you spray painting and you destroying your own neighborhood?
Yeah.
It's yeah.
So hold that thought. Brewer, when you hear, kind of what Fox is expressing in terms of it being a baby oak park, what comes to mind when you hear that connotation as one of the city leaders?
First, that's a new concept.
A new concept. Okay.
New concept.
Okay.
Because used to hearing about Elk Grove being called a cow town.
Yeah.
It's like I moved up here in 87 when it was 2 flashing red lights. And it was just Elk Grove, Florida, and Elk Grove Boulevard. And I also remember some of my friends from college that went to Kennedy or went to Burbank. Some that grew up here, they remember playing against the Elk Grove Knights Pop Warner team,
Uh-huh.
and part of their brand of intimidation is hanging a player in effigy. That player just happens to look black, and they'll set it on fire.
At the game.
Also,
At the game. Is that what you said?
some of my friends who would play high school here,
Mm-hmm.
high school ball here,
Mm-hmm.
would have to run back to the bus after the game, not shower, not dress, because they were afraid of encountering some form of violence.
Oh.
And they would be called to hard ER
Uh-huh.
on the way to the bus and while they're in the bus as they're heading out of town. So when you have that as part of your physical legacy,
Yeah.
even though Bill Cartwright played here in high school, went on to fame,
Mm-hmm.
you always wonder, I don't see Bill Cartwright coming back around here. This is his hometown. Why don't you see him? Why don't you see him?
And shout
And
out
so-
to Marcus. Marcus just did a story on Bill Cartwright the other day because Bill
Yes.
Cartwright wrote a book.
Yes.
And so just shout out to him because I just saw that.
So when you look at that and you think, and you look at the what the past legacy of Elk Grove was, and the saying is "Proud Heritage, Bright Future."
Mm-hmm.
I had a young student that talked to me last summer at a BSU summit
Mm-hmm.
here at City Hall, and the young woman asked me,
Girl
like,
or woman?
young girl,
Okay.
but she's a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
She's on the way to being a woman.
Yeah, but we call them girls because we don't adultify our children.
Well,
We're
that's good to know.
Yes, sir.
But
Because I'm gonna correct you every
she's-
time.
She's 16 years old.
Yep, a girl.
And,
Yep.
and she asked me,
Mm-hmm.
what is there to be proud about when you've just described all this to us?
Yeah.
That's the real talk.
Yeah.
And so knowing that,
Mm-hmm.
this is where we've been trying to build a new Elk Grove from
Right.
2000 to today. What are we looking at? How are we building this town? How are we building this city? How do we work on making this city diversified and making it the fourth largest city of its type, small city of its type, being diversified with all different ethnicities and being a majority city? What does that look like?
Right.
And we can't run away from our city's past.
Mm-hmm.
We can't run away from where we are right now,
Mm-hmm.
because everything snowballs for a reason. And it's the constant care and feeding that we give to our citizens and to all of our systems, whether it be the school district that you have been a strong champion in holding to account and still holding to account. The community services district, which does parks, recreation, fire, and emergency services,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to make sure that you further diversify the staffing there. So not only people have an opportunity of working in the fire service and having real jobs that pay six-figure salaries, but also looking at the bigger picture of, do we have an agency that looks like us, that will look out for us, and at the same time honor us through different events and respecting our cultural, who we are as a people.
Right.
And then you have the city government, where you have a police department and a city council. City council's diverse now. As you see, it's like the colors of Benetton. Every individual represented by every different person or race. But the funny part about it, and here's the punchline, my district is actually the most conservative of the 5 districts, and it's the largest landmass.
Hmm. So what do you attribute that to?
A lot of that's through hard work, and as
And you know what I'm asking you, right?
but
How they put a black dude up in there?
but let me answer that
Yeah.
in a much quicker way, because as you know, because we work together,
Mm-hmm.
and part of the reason why I was no longer at the California Assembly. And
Don't be talking, but
that's a
don't be
different
talking.
discussion for a different day.
Okay.
Never shame the devil, but you got to shame the devil.
I mean, the devil be busy.
I got elected to the Consumers Community Services District that represented Elk Grove and Galt,
Mm-hmm.
and I served on there for 12 years. And a lot of the cultural events that did not exist before existed. People working in higher profile positions did not exist, happened under my watch. A fire department that did not have any Black people working there when I started.
Mm-hmm.
When I left, a legacy was started where now people are working there and having opportunities and having a better life.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you come into a situation at city council where I got elected, that were by district, and those same people, they knew who they voted for. I campaigned every day, and I campaigned on their doorstep, and I campaigned hard. And I won the election.
Yeah.
It's because the people grew and developed a trust. I earned their trust, but they saw the work that I was doing.
Yeah.
And I was unapologetic in who I was, very unapologetic in what I represented. And people say, you know what? This is our guy. He's authentic.
Right. But can I ask you something? Let me stop you real quick.
Let's go.
Because we're talking about Dr. King's legacy, and he, you know, you just said something that struck a quote from him for me. You said the department that didn't have any Black folks on there before you now does. But Dr. King, in relation to integration, said that he felt like he was running his people into a burning building. And a lot of times when we put say that again.
Leading his people into a burning building.
So a lot of times when we put Black folks in these historically non-Black spaces, they get in there and there's a way that they are treated, and they are not supported. They are not looked at as equal to their counterparts. And since we're talking about the assembly, kind of like the assembly, where you get in these buildings, right? And you're treated as less than, as if you don't know, as if you don't belong there. And there's really nowhere for you to go. So have you experienced where those people that did get into the fire department actually stayed and like it? Or are they there because that is their livelihood at this point? You know what I mean? Because, you know, we want to say, oh, yeah, well, we belong in every space, but every space is not welcoming when we get there. I mean, and that's kind of what Dr. King was talking about. Like, you know, I thought this was a good idea, but now that I'm looking at it, you know, it's just made things worse. So how do you kind of correlate, you know, your perspective on opening up things to allow more Black folks in, and then the different types of issues that we're seeing pop up in these spaces where the Black folks that are there, it's one or two of them, and they're targeted because of who they are and what people don't think they're qualified to do?
Well, our folks are they had a love and a passion for being in the fire service or being a firefighter. And
are they still there?
They're still there.
Fantastic.
And also, one of the things I really pledged on doing is, like, whether I'm there or not, I'm going to be very proactive, and I'm going to be in there and learn about stuff every day and every week, which I still do to this very day as a council member, which probably put me on a stronger platform as a council member, because the fire department is governed by the community services district, the Consumers Community Services District, which I served on.
Yeah.
I'm no longer on that board.
And there's no more Black folks on there either, right?
None.
Okay. I just wanted to say that to folks.
and that's a strong preface, because as a city council member and being the only Black person on the city council, but you have one of each. As a city council member, I take that role very seriously. And part of it is knowing what's going on in your city, knowing who is where, and making sure that I'm doing everything I can to have my presence felt, to ensure that people are getting a fair shake. So when I do talk to my folks that are in the fire department, and when I do talk to them, I ask them those very specific questions. Do you like being here? Are you seeing any challenges? And what are those challenges? And if they tell me they don't have any problems and they like being there, then I can't challenge them, but I can encourage them. But there's also,
well, they can call me, because I don't know. Sometimes people just don't want to ruffle feathers.
No, people want to ruffle feathers. People want to ruffle feathers. And one of the things I've been doing for the past 15 years, I make things very uncomfortable, because we're not here to be beanie babies. We're not here to be to do all the Care Bear stuff. We're here to do work. We're here to do work for our people. We're here to work for the community. We're here to be representative. We're here to represent, period. And that's something that I have a deep passion about. So in my case, I run into the fire, but I'm very grateful that I have a flak jacket on.
I like to bring my own matches, but go ahead, Melissa. You have something you want to add to the conversation?
Yeah, so I have a question, but first I have a comment. There was a comment made earlier about being outraged as a community, and I like the sentiment, but I find it a little hard to be outraged as a community when this is something that I know how we're saying, in 2025, this shouldn't be happening. I'm not surprised though, because I mean, the entire reason we have this podcast in the first place is because we consistently see hate crimes and public acts of violence against the Black community, and public acts of hatred against the Black community. And while a billboard does reach a lot of people, we've also covered stories where there are things posted on social media which arguably reaches way more people than a billboard. So not that it isn't a horrible issue, because it is, and there's so many people that are affected by it, but I find it a little hard to be outraged because we're here every week, Mondays at 4:30, covering more than one issue that is an act of hatred towards the Black community. So I don't think I know being outraged is something that can help drive a community forward, and passion to change can also help drive a community forward, but it's a little hard to do that when an entire community can be desensitized to the same thing happening over and over again, just in a different format. And so my question is kind of related to that. What was the community response to the incident? If there was anything more than what happened on the Nextdoor app, was there actual outrage within the Black community in Elk Grove, or was it just the reporting of the incident and then everybody kind of moved on, if there was anything at all?
Well, nothing has moved on, and no one had really told me or talked to me in the days since that incident. No one had really talked to me and expressed any sort of outrage or anger, but in a lot of ways, we should still be angry because we're used to using the word. We're used to saying the word. It's part of our vernacular, even whether we use it with an A or with an ER.
We don't use it with an ER, but go off.
But as a standard practice, I don't say it. I don't practice it. I don't use it. That's how I was raised. I was raised to not say that word, to not use that word.
Yeah.
But for other people, they're going to be shocked and outraged because from their perspective, and we're talking about people that aren't Black, they're going to be outraged. They're going to be shocked because in their mind, we are in a post-racial America. You and I know that we are not.
We are not.
And we have not. The struggle is real and the struggle is ongoing. And the struggle is 24/7 for us. But for other folks that say they're outraged and shocked, I hear them.
Yeah.
But you have to see it from my perspective. You have to see it from my people's perspective.
Yeah.
That hatred is every day like breathing water, like drinking water and breathing air.
Yeah.
And it's something that we expect. Something we expect. Otherwise, we would not be going in and being advocates and pushing for change when we need it. There's a reason why we're in a constant state of rage.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that. It's like, you're always so smiley and bubbly. No, I'm smiley and bubbly because I'm a second away from going off on you. Because that is who we are as a people.
Yeah.
There's still stuff that we're fighting for. There's still things we need now. But the question is, are people taking us seriously? Well, they better, because in the decade since, it feels like governments have not taken us seriously. And
no, but they got all the compassion for other communities, and we have to talk about that too.
Right.
You look like you wanted to say something. Did you want to jump in there, sir?
Man, Melissa, that's they little sisters, man. When they're younger than me, I always try to I want to enlighten you and give you power to the words that you were saying, because that was real. For me, there's many different aspects to our culture as a people. So there's many different levels of how we look at things,
right?
Because of the places we come from and the things that we go through, and our geographical differences and social standards within society. The community I come from, we don't care. And every time
you don't care about what?
Nobody writing an N-word on that thing up there. It didn't faze me at all. In order, I sat in prison for 27 years and heard that word every day.
From whom?
White people, Mexican people, Asian people, guards, and other ignorant Negroes.
Right.
I heard the word every day. And
Yeah.
And there's a difference.
There's a big difference.
They're not the same.
Facts.
The was Black people's way of capitalizing off the word and saying, we taking the word back.
Shout out to NWA.
This us, you know what I'm saying? We got it. Although I hear you, some people wasn't raised to say that.
Right.
Out of a sign of respect, because it was too close to ER. But for those that was in the ghetto, that's what they were still saying. That was their way of
and
taking
stuff.
it back.
People outside of the ghetto too, because I wasn't in no ghetto.
Because it transpired on. But now, every time I go to the mall, since I got out, at first I thought they was talking to me. Because, you know, us as Black people, we send, hey, nigga. I turn. Two white boys call each other that.
Yeah.
Mexicans call each other that. Girls call each other that. Asians call each other that. There's no power in the word.
Yeah.
So I thank you when you say that, because as our youth be coming up, I want them to feel no power in the word. Ain't no power in that. If you ain't got the power to not hire me, then you ain't got no power. You write whatever you want on that thing. Like you said, he wrote that thing and ran down the freeway somewhere. That dude can't hire me or fire me.
That's right.
That's the reason why we advocate. We advocate for those who, when we have an imbalance of power,
right?
Not because of the stuff that come out their mouth. Say what you want to say. Do what you do. Do what you do. Spray paint it, whatever. It wasn't on my car. The city got to pay for that. Maybe the city, like you said, they're gonna put a different code in there. But for Black people, I don't want our people getting enraged, because we get enraged and we do stuff.
Yeah.
And I want us to save that enragement for the big thing.
Yeah.
Not to say I'm not promoting nothing. I don't want the big thing to come. But let's not go jump on cars and burn the businesses down like Black folks are doing it. But because somebody wrote something.
They said they said rioting is the voice of the unheard, right? And so when we're talking about the reactions to multiple decades of mistreatment, I can't tell somebody else how to respond to that. What I will say in response to what you were saying about the N-word, that's our word now. And if we choose to use it, I don't use it in mixed company, but I will call a couple people that I know that, right? Because that wasn't anything that was foreign in my family, right? But that does not give anybody else the right to use it. Or they do have the right to use it. They can't predict the consequences of using that word, because everybody is not going to be able to brush it off. Some people are going to react or respond, right? And we can't police that, but we do know when it is used with an ER where that comes from and what it's signaling to people, right? Kind of like Elon Musk throwing up the white power sign at the inauguration today, right? We know what you're trying to signal. The thing is, they don't want no smoke, because if they want their smoke, they would say it, and then they wouldn't run and hide behind police or call the police after they say it.
That's because when people know, and
they absolutely know, they're not stupid.
No. This is the part I'm alluding to. So when I grew up, especially in Central Valley, where there's only 5-6% of us down there, but my family was pretty big, and anyone that knew, if you said that word within an earshot of a Brewer or a Smith or a Whitfield, they got punched in the eye.
Yeah, facts. You said, "Damn."
and folks knew better.
Yeah, they don't know.
Nowadays, to what Fox said, everyone's using it.
Yeah.
And so the sting has been taken from the word as it's become more generational.
Yeah.
But for the old school people, that still burns.
Yeah.
And so I know last year there was an event that took place called Civil War Days.
Mm-hmm. The reenactment, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for the younger generations, the sting wasn't there, but for those older generations, the sting was there and it was deep. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where a lot of things happen as we educate our young and educate our youth, but also learn from our youth of how things are evolving.
Yeah.
That's it, because for us to have that real sort of power, to have that real sort of authority is learning from each other.
Yeah.
And learning from the generations. That's why it's like this discussion I really appreciate, because these are discussions that I normally have at home with my friends or with my family.
Yeah.
And I appreciate having this discussion because this is a real discussion right here.
Yeah.
This is more than just talking about politics and what we are going to do and what we can do. That's part of it. But the real thing is, how can we as a people keep our voices heard, but also let people know that we're not tolerating this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that old school wise, right? Racism was more overt. Now it's covert, right? And it's also kind of enacted in the policies in which we see, right? They may not be calling me the N-word, but they are putting certain policies on the books that detrimentally impact my people. Right. And so just because they're not saying the N-word does not mean that they don't see me as the N-word, because the way in which they respond to me tells me how they value me as a person.
Right.
And when we're talking about the legacy of Dr. King and we're talking about Billboards and BS, right? When we're talking about that legacy, he was not a liked person. I don't know how we got fluffies and rainbows and Skittles falling out the sky when it comes to Dr. King and his legacy. I don't know what that is, but he was taking on the brunt of things. And the problem is in our community, we have this thing that we do called Messiah leadership. We look to one person and we put all the responsibility on that person, right? And we do follow their lead because we want to prop them up. But when that going got tough, some of them people disappeared. You know what I mean? And they still alive. I don't know where they've been the last 50 years when this crap is still going on. But you see them at the different events and they're, high-fiving and they taking damn pictures. What is going on with our people? I'm not impressed personally. And I think that we do too much to glorify a legacy that we don't fully understand.
And a legacy that we've let fall by the wayside.
But because we make
people crazy. All the conversations that took place, all the wars, all the battles, all the sit-ins, all the beatdowns, all the killings that took place, they were rooted in uncomfortable discussions, uncomfortable. And they still enacted policies. And policies are still being put in place. And the biggest slap to the face is to put this on as a federal holiday and still be carrying on this foolishness, and where it is separate and unequal, where you have school districts giving money over here to where, white flight doesn't happen, and not resourcing the places that really need it, right? But you're not calling me the N-word, but you're showing me that I am to you, right? And or even worse.
And you can jump in, Fox and Isaiah and Melissa.
Even worse, it's more or less like you're invisible.
Yeah, you're invisible. Is it that 3/5 of a person that they had in the Constitution? I'm just curious.
That's being practiced in a very sneaky way as an undercurrent.
Yeah, and I'm not with it. Melissa, you coming off mute? I saw you.
Yeah. So there's my mom has a question that she wasn't able to put into the chat because it was too long. So it's about the current conversation. So about using the N-word and the differences. So she said, I don't use the N-word because it was how I was raised. So there's confusion, or I get confused when there are consequences used when some people say it with a hard R or not. If it is just words, then what's the difference? What difference does it make to police it when other people use it?
I think that, well, I can't speak for everybody, but what I will say, because it's being enforced on school campuses, but not really. And so what I was told is they can enforce it on school campuses because Black kids say it to each other. Then there's that whole generation where NWA came through and they said, we're taking this word back. This is our word now. And I understand there are some people who don't use it. However, there are some people who use it. And we know the difference when you're using it. If you're not Black, you shouldn't be saying the damn word, period, because it ain't your word anymore. And you can say it, but you cannot stop the consequences of what happens when a person who was raised in Fox's era hears you and they knock your teeth out, right? There may be some kids nowadays that don't see anything wrong with the word. I know years ago, NAACP had a whole ceremony and they buried the word. Like, I'm not saying policing the word in terms of getting law enforcement involved, but you do know that when it's used in places like the prison, they're trying to subjugate you, right? So let's not play
with success. With success.
Yeah, and they're trying to get a rise out of you, so then they can enact those policies that will keep you down longer, right?
And that's my point.
Yeah,
because they use it. They irritate you, they get on you, and then you go. Now, guess who daddy in jail? Guess who uncle in jail?
Mm-hmm.
Guess who done socked this white lady in her mouth in the store because she called him 10 N-words and he kept telling her, stop calling me that, stop calling me that, stop calling me that. And I said, oh, he hit a lady. But to my point, to get more in tune with her question, the reason why people regulate it and get on it so much and have such a passion about it, even though, like I say, it doesn't bother me, but we still alive. My grandfather was a slave.
Mm-hmm.
My auntie had to go to school, was on them buses and stuff. You still got OGs that's still here. So when we hear it, it's not that you disrespected me, you disrespected my people though.
Mm-hmm.
My people still alive. They here.
Yeah.
So even though it's a new generation that don't understand it, I do.
Do you think they don't understand it? Because I've been to multiple campuses where Black kids are giving out the N-word passes to non-Black students.
That's a joke. You don't do that. What kind of pass is that?
I don't know. I mean, but it's literally a pass that they've printed out and cut it up, like and they handed it. Yeah.
And he gave it to them, and they can use it. But that's what I mean.
But then they've been getting socked up by other kids who didn't give them the pass.
But they don't understand the same way how when we was growing up, right?
Yeah.
There was a certain code of conduct that has been passed down for generations, and we're still passing it down for generations. This code of said conduct was: you don't answer the door. You don't embarrass mama in the grocery store. Mm-hmm. You don't act stupid in front of white folks. Mm-hmm. Don't, when we went to back to school night, it was like you got to dress up for Easter. You got to, it was a certain code of conduct that Black folks was passing down.
Yeah.
So now our children, like you said, they don't understand, but some of that is on us too, because as our generation has grown up, we have desensitized them as well to it. Hey, don't you worry about that, sticks and stones, and
but words hurt.
They do, but the difference between this generation and our generation is, although I'm not a slave, I've seen the direct effects of slavery.
Post-traumatic slave syndrome.
I seen the direct things going on. I grew up in the welfare system. I was a recipient of it.
Yeah.
We grew up poor. At a hand, all that. My grandfather was a slave. Like I said, we heard direct stories. You go anybody church in here, and they still alive. Like I said.
Yeah.
and we had the firsthand stories. So these children under us are getting the second and third hand stories.
Entitled.
They entitled.
Spoiled.
And one of the things I would like to say about Martin Luther King is something that has been lost to me that I noticed. The level of brotherhood. Mm-hmm. Like you said, it was conversations going down. People was making they made legislative laws and stuff with his brother. But the conversations that was going down with him, the camaraderie. Name me one person that can talk you into going outside and getting bit by a dog. Dr. Martin Luther King was able to talk about, hey brother, look, the dog's gonna bite us. They're gonna hit the water on us, but we gonna stand up.
Yeah.
He got spit on his face and hit in his face and had to go back home to his wife. You know what I mean? I don't know about you, but it's kind of hard for a brother to look at his wife when she just, it's okay, babe. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This day, dudes, they act up in front of these females out here. You can't say nothing to them. But my point is this. When you say what's wrong with our people, it's the camaraderie behind the camaraderie. Mm. Up front, people will high-five you. They'll say, what's up? They'll do that. They'll all kind of, I love you. I pray for you. All that. But Dr. Martin Luther King, they had a camaraderie behind the camaraderie. And when that got broken, that's what got Dr. Martin Luther King killed. That's my opinion. That's me. That's what I'm saying. It's Fox. I ain't, you know. But to me, that's what got him killed. That's what got Malcolm X killed. Counter pro intel. Y'all going against the grain.
Or letting certain people in there to co-opt your mess.
And so when I heard
and those are the ones closest to you, right?
So to me, when he said, I feel like I led my people into a burning building.
Yeah.
Y'all helped me do that.
Yeah.
Y'all got the counterpoint intel and y'all was pitting false stuff out there. If we can get back to just the old school church dinners, I don't know, the old school church dinners, but just be honest, man. You know, every day, one thing that we do when we advocate out here, when you do what you can, like you said, I heard you when you said, man, I earned them votes. Yeah, you earn it.
Yeah.
These people don't want to earn their respect no more.
Nope.
You know, they just want to come in the room and you got $100 for me? Lunch on you.
Yeah.
All right, lunch on me. Let's see where this go. Okay. You know, but man, so in honor of Martin Luther King, I would just like to ask that, you know, people just be who you're supposed to be. Be the definition of the words that you speak out your mouth. That would help our people out a lot. And sometimes it just starts just with the person sitting next to you. Yeah.
Isaiah's trying to jump in. What you trying to say?
I feel like I understand what Fox is saying about, you know, the lack of brotherhood of, you know, in a Black community. I feel like the big problem with that is like a lot. It's just like a widespread like lone wolf mentality going on in our community. Like, you know, it's like, you know, the world is really tough out there. I got to be strong. I got to do things by myself. I got to, you know.
But why? Why do you think that is?
I honestly, I don't know. It's hard for me to really say that because I also kind of had that little like mentality too, where it's like I was just, if I had a problem, I had to do it like by myself. I couldn't really ask for help. I couldn't really, you know.
But why? Why couldn't you?
I felt like, for me personally, I felt like, oh, if I asked for help, I ended up being like a burden to like other people. That was my problem.
Yeah.
And I feel like that more like 9 times out of 10, that's probably the same thing that's going on for like all these other kids that we're probably working with too. They're probably feeling like, you know, they can't get their voice out there because they feel like they don't want to like, you know, bother anybody. They don't want to, you know, come off as like, you know, like a dampener, that sort of thing. So I feel like the biggest thing that for us as a community, one thing that we should do is like, you know, help people like find their voice, you know, being able to speak out, you know, express their concerns, you know, be more comfortable with, you know, opening up to others.
Yeah. Welcome to Black versus the Board of Education. Because that's exactly why it was established, to help us find our voice. And I understand what you're saying, but the only problem I have with what I'm hearing, we make it sound like the Black community is the only community out here that has these types of issues. We are just more vocal about them, but we are not the only ones who have these type of issues. And this was done by design, because there have been certain people elevated while other people were made to watch the person be elevated, and that person doesn't come back to the community to give back. Now, is that their responsibility? I mean, we can argue that, right? But at the end of the day, this was all being done by design. It was divide and conquer. And they've done such a good job of placing us in divisive situations that we've turned around and we've decided we don't trust each other. And that's why we come out here and we're lone wolves, or that's why, you know, we have this kind of apprehension of partnering with one another, because somebody got to be in charge, and everybody's ego is on the table, and nobody wants to be put in the background, right? And what I saw with Dr. King, he wanted to empower other people to lead because he was getting tired. He said in his last speech, I'm not worried about me. I may not get to the promised land, but I've seen the mountains. You know what I mean? I've seen it. And whether I'm there or not, somebody has to carry this torch. And so he was waiting to empower other people to come alongside him and not just propel him, because he knew he was a target. And we got to do a better job of protecting the people we are following, and then learning and gleaning from those people to also help carry the load, because it's quite a burden. The harvest is plenty, the workers are few. Melissa, we're going to go 30 seconds, everybody. Last closing thoughts on this MLK Day, this Billboards and BS episode. Do you have any closing thoughts you want to share, Melissa?
Just being aware of our surroundings and the way that we respond to them.
Okay. Fox, get the microphone.
I'm gonna run with an old school statement.
Yeah.
You got 2 ears. You can listen twice as hard. Shut your mouth.
Oh, you want people to shut up?
Man,
He just said we want people to talk. Wait.
we want people to advocate for themselves and talk, not open your mouth and just say something stupid.
Oh, gotcha.
Be educated and use your and use some discernment when you speak.
Discernment. I like that word. Okay. Isaiah, closing thoughts?
Elk Grove is my hometown. I've lived here for most of my life. I'm hopeful for its future, and I'm hopeful for the people in it as well.
Okay. Brewer.
I love today's discussion. This is real talk. I love it. As a matter of fact, I want to come back. I want to come back.
Come on
and
back.
exchange on more stuff with all of y'all. But the whole thing is like all the points here were real, and the key thing is let's keep our eye forward. Let's keep our eye on the ball. Let's keep moving forward together.
Yeah. And my closing thoughts, I'm gonna piggyback on that. We can't move forward with everybody, and we have to learn who deserves our energy, because there's some people who's in there just to poke holes in your boat while you're trying to move forward. So we have to be discerning, right, Fox? We have to learn to discern who has the same type of mentality that we have, because there's some people who like it just the way that it is. Straight up. They like it just the way that it is. And we can't have that moving into this next phase of life with this new administration and the things that they're going to be doing, because I wasn't happy with the last administration and the things that they were doing. And we have to get more engaged politically. And we have to be at the table. If we're not at the table, we're on the menus. So we have to tap in. We're not going to like each other all the time, but we have to be committed in doing the work together. So with that, we're going to hit y'all with the peace sign. We'll see y'all next Monday right here on Black versus the Board of Education. Y'all take care.